This past year, the NBA released their top 75 list for the 75th season of NBA basketball. And one of the biggest critiques that most people had with the list was that Klay Thompson was left off of it. And after Klay Thompson did not get put on that list, he came out with a new jersey that had him wearing 77 because 76 players were chosen on that list. And because that 76 players were chosen, Klay Thompson and the Warriors were joking around saying that Klay was the 77th best player in NBA history. But I just think that Klay is absolutely delusional for thinking that. I mean, every player thinks they are a great player, especially in the NBA. But when it comes down to it, there's so many players that got snubbed just besides Klay. You had Kyrie Irving, you had Vince Carter, you had Dwight Howard. So I just don't think it is realistic to give Klay Thompson the nod over all of those players. I mean, Klay Thompson is incredible, no doubt. He is one of the most winning players in NBA history. He has 4 NBA rings under his belt, which I have to admit none of those 3 players have. But the thing about Klay Thompson that makes him worse than all those guys is his scoring. Superpowers and stars in the NBA really run the show, and when it comes down to it, Klay Thompson just does not have star power. Sure, he's averaged a solid 23 and 2 for the majority of his career, but Klay Thompson is just not on those guys' levels. Because if you look at Kyrie Irving, Vince Carter, and Dwight Howard as examples, Kyrie Irving has averaged 23 points. Vince Carter averaged a bamboozle 17 and 5 for his career, and yes, that might seem not like much, but in his prime, Vince Carter was incredible. It's just those years where he wasn't doing so well on those losing teams that make his average worse. And Dwight? He was one of the best big men in the league at one point and has averaged 15 and 11 for his entire career. Plus, he won 3 DPOYs. But when you look at Klay Thompson's accolades, what has he really accomplished? Sure, he's won 4 rings, but what has he done outside of that? He has 5 All-Star appearances, 2 All-NBA selections, and was chosen for the 2019 All-Defensive Team, and was a 2011-12 second-team rookie. And yeah, that's great, but compared to those other guys, they've won way more awards when it comes to personal stats than just championships. And yeah, championships are important. You see that with Bill Russell. But when it comes down to it, star power is the most important thing when it comes to ranking a player, because it doesn't matter how much their team succeeded. For example, is Allen Iverson a better player than Klay Thompson? Sure, he didn't come close to winning as many championships as Klay, but AI was a transcendent player on the court. He was the first one to really bring the crossover into the game of basketball and make it a cool, popular move. But what has Klay Thompson done? Maybe just shoot? I mean, yeah, that's great and all, but he has a teammate named Stephen Curry. Sure, both of them are the 2 greatest shooting backcourt in the history of basketball. But Allen Iverson, for example, is just a way more transcendent player that changed the game of basketball more than Klay Thompson ever will. Klay Thompson is a great shooter, but he is not a well-rounded player as much as some of the great guys that made it onto the 75th list that are new. Steph Curry, his own teammate, he's the greatest shooter of all time, but he can also do other stuff. He's a great passer and a great playmaker. But Klay is just really just a shooter who has been one of the best at doing it for the majority of NBA history. Do you really ever hear a kid say, wow, I want to be just like Klay Thompson and make it to the NBA? They're like, no, I want to be like Steph Curry and make it to the NBA. Klay Thompson has not really been one of the NBA's most influential players, and I think that factors in too. The more influential you are on kids and just people in general, you are going to be more famous and you really are just going to be a better player in the rankings. Also, I just want to make this clear. I am not trying to hate on Klay Thompson in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I'm a huge Klay Thompson fan. I'm just being honest with myself, assessing the game of basketball when it comes to the all-time greats. I will give Klay Thompson some props though. Is he a top 5 Golden State Warrior of all time? Yeah, I'd say that. He is a great player, and I think nobody can take that away from him. He is going to be a future Hall of Famer. I just don't think that he is a top 75 player of all time. And until he shows me he can win some actual accolades that will help me understand why people think that he is a top 75 NBA player of all time, then I will just leave it at that. I think we've discussed everything that needs to be discussed. So thank you guys for watching. Click subscribe, turn notifications on, like, share, comment, all the good stuff. And as always, I'm your boy Hyper Hooper Basketball, and we're out.